local stencilist, cartoonist, graphic designer here in the Omaha area. Been here my entire life. I'm a 90s kid. So, speaking of 90s kid, pop culture, that's like the biggest influence, with a lot of the stuff that I do. Just because I'm influenced by it. I grew up, I was talking about influence, my brother, and his stuff influenced me to kind of do and act a certain way and that sort of thing. So with influence, after I got a little older, I started to realize that, hey, embrace that influence and let it become you, because it is you. Manga, anime, all kinds of fun stuff. But I got into like Battle Chasers, Danger Girl, Witchblade. I played video games, played a lot of video games, played Street Fighter, played a lot of Tekken, played a lot of, just Double Dragon this and whatever else, like Sonic the Hedgehog, all that fun stuff. My humble beginnings as an artist started from that. I started drawing a bunch of, like cartoon characters that I, saw in magazines. I even traced a bunch of stuff and took them to like my elementary school, classmates and showed them, hey, this is what I did. They'll pull out the Street Fighter strategy guide, match up my stuff with the stuff that I traced, and it was embarrassing. But anyway, so I started coming up with my own characters, and like over the years, things kind of just, progressed to where I started, putting like character backdrops of my stuff and just all kinds of little cool things, developing stories, writing stories, creating cartoon characters that coincided with other, other novels or stories that I had heard about. Like I was really needing some sort of direction, and if there was anyone that put me in that right direction, it was my American government teacher, who could have just easily took my sketches and tossed them in the trash or something or whatever. Turns out that he wrote a lot of books, a lot of comic books and stuff, and so he got me introduced into like the sort of like comic aspect, comic book, aspect of my work. I wanted to learn a lot of different aspects of artwork, because like I didn't want to stay limited to just like drawing or sketching or putting together like comic book concepts. Started looking at some schools. There was a school out in Chicago that I was checking out. I got accepted, so that was awesome. That was great. It was like a milestone for me. But the issue was that I didn't make enough money, to kind of get things taken care of on my own. Ended up, being $9,000 into the hole, for taking just gen ed courses. That sucked. I wasn't really learning any sort of, programs, or I wasn't putting any of this stuff, together. It felt like I was wasting a lot of time. I definitely don't want to take away from people that are going to school and getting their degrees and that sort of thing or whatever, but it's just, in my situation, I have certain options that are dealt, to me, and I just have to make the best out of those. So I started linking up with, local talent, and started seeing people that I went to school with, really, really making a name for themselves and really putting some prolific stuff together. A buddy of mine, my buddy Gerard, and I tell him this all the time, and he's sick of me saying it, but it's true. It's like, his stuff that he's putting together is more inspiring than anything that I've been part of, because he's doing more than talking about it. He's actually doing it. I'm doing a stencil of a friend of mine here in town. And this was after we kind of had this nice hiatus of not being on speaking terms for whatever reason. And, we're best friends again. And I decided that I was going to do something nice for once and actually put some artwork together in regards to, friendship, blah, 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 that sort of thing or whatever. And she's real pretty too, so I decided to do that too. But essentially what I got going on is a testament to a culture that I most certainly appreciate or have been appreciating over, the past year or so. That culture being street art, dealing with artists, dealing with, graffiti elements, street art elements, a lot of little cool things like that. What I'd like to do is most certainly just touch lives, and touch lives with the best way, or with the best sort of skill that I know how, because I can't speak. I'm not a crazy public speaker or anything. This is really the only thing I know how to do. I know how to draw, I know how to paint. And I said that in the most humble way possible, because it's something that maybe it's a gift or something that I'm most certainly appreciative of. I've done commissions to where I've done stuff for people, to where someone was like, hey, can you do a painting of Ronnie James Dio? Or hey, can you do a painting of, my kids? Or hey, can you do this naked chick? Or, or just whatever, and stuff like that, stuff that I enjoy doing, commissions, because I really enjoy the technical aspect of street art, or really just artwork just in general, and I'll get to that point to where I'm really just cranking out all this this material to where I just want people to understand, a thought process behind my work. And of course I don't want it to be stupid, stupid, meaningless stuff, Yeah, the piece behind me, it was an idea that I had that kind of resembled the pros and cons of street art, graffiti, and being a property owner, so to speak, dealing with a person that takes pride in having an establishment built or created. This project was supposed to be a project that dealt with the constant struggle, the property owner and its, and its society. You have an image. This image was a stencil of Audrey Hepburn I put on a canvas. And then, of course, someone decided that they wanted to, the theory was that someone decided that they wanted to tag over it, or, put their graffiti or, signs, markings or whatever on it, and just, not really give a crap about it. And so what do I do as a property owner? Well, I decide to try to hide it, so I, put stuff on top of it. I decided that, okay, well, this person's going to continue to keep, putting stuff on top of my tags, so I'm going to go ahead and keep tagging it up and do all kinds of cool stuff. But now as a tagger, I don't care about any of that stuff, so I'm going to keep on doing it. So now, as a building owner, I'm upset. So I'm ripping this stuff off piece by piece, because now I'm frustrated, and it's been just aggravating me, putting this stuff together. And so then I'm finished, so the piece is more or less just an illustration of the struggle between property, manager or owner of something, and the street artist that may not have a positive outlet, for his skill or for his, level of technique or something like that, or that individual that's not finding a positive way to put his stuff together, and that's the difficult part. And so, but neither of them are really trying to coincide with each other. Neither of them are really trying to, coexist. Last year out in Chicago, I went to this arts and music festival thing. It was more arts than anything else. Was seeing the artwork and stuff that was there. A lot of the buildings, there were a lot of, there was a lot of taggings and throw-ups and cool, street art elements that were just all over the damn place. And I was looking at the price tag. It's $100 for a big ass canvas, about as big as some of the pieces that I have here. And I was just like, what's the deal? Why is your artwork so inexpensive? What's going on? And the lady, she told me, she was like, there shouldn't be a reason that people can't afford artwork, unless, someone's trying to make, crazy dumb amounts of money off of that stuff or whatever. me selling my work for as low as I'm doing right now, that's justifiable. That's cool. That's awesome. And, you know, all I'm really doing is just, you know, I'm charging for the paints, you know, charging for the supplies, and maybe a little bit of the time that I'm putting into it. You know, people are continuously helping me, you know, put together something that I love to do. And I'm not about to charge somebody $1,000, you know, for, you know, like a couple squares in a line, you know, like, and of course that's something that you hear all the time, you know, artists and people like me, you know, say shit like that. You know, as far as money is concerned, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, pay mortgages with my work. Of course, people are like, oh man, you could sell your, you know, you could sell your work, you know, for, you know, $300, $500, blah, blah, blah. And these are the same people, and of course, forgive me for saying this, but these are the same people that aren't buying my work. So it's like so easy to say, you know, hey, you know, you could sell this for way more. I was like, hey, thanks, man. Well, you know, go right ahead. You know, buy it for $500 if you want to. No? Okay, well then buy it for $100 like I would normally sell it. And then bam, you'll have artwork. You know, but the bottom line is I'm in a situation where I'm trying to do what makes me happy. You know, and this is what makes me happy. It was amazing. I got inspired. You know, I'm doing the things that I'm doing now because of my previous experiences with, you know, meeting other people and getting things set up. With the stenciling, with the street art, with this, you know, freehand graffiti stuff that I'm trying to learn. I'm just around a lot of really awesome people that's bringing that creativity out of me. And just during this past year, you know, I had my first, you know, public like showcase to where I was selling artwork, you know, passing out business cards and, you know, talking to people, and, you know, and it's just, you know, finding opportunities. I don't want to work a day job, you know, for the rest of my life, you know, something that I can't stand doing, you know, something that I'm not passionate about, you know, let's be involved with something that I'm passionate in doing, and that's art. You know, that's my life.